Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, thanking you all very much for tuning in. Do we still say that in the era of the internet? Do we tune into something? Because on televisions back in the day, that's what you do. Now you just click, you tap, you listen. It's just, or you watch. It's just as simple as that. Look, thank you for allowing me to enter your eyeballs and your ear holes. How about that? It's a little gross, but the sentiment is there. I appreciate you very much, but sincerely, we're going to be talking about professional wrestling for the next couple of hours or so, and reviewing the week that happened. I'm going to be talking about, of course, the usual AEW Dynamite recap. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about in that specific show, especially with the Hangman Adam Page promo, which I think was very divisive for some peculiar reason. There's a lot of stuff I want to go over. We're going to talk about the GCW fake COVID test allegations, WWE moving Money in the Bank, a big update on the Best of Super Juniors as well, because we're very, very close to the finish here. So, I'm going to try and dig in a little more and see what kind of possibilities, who might be who's in the best position to win, who's already been eliminated. Well, I got you covered if you listen to the podcast, of course. But thank you for listening already. And hey, here's the thing. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, go right ahead, like the video, and subscribe if this is the first time you pop in here and you're already enjoying this, which is great. But subscriptions, likes, that kind of stuff really, really helps out. And you know what also helps out? Comments. That stuff really, really does help the video get more range. It helps the channel grow. And I like to talk to you guys about pro wrestling. We're coming up to Double or Nothing. There's a lot of stuff happening in the build-up, or even after. You might be watching this after Double or Nothing as well. Let's talk about it. Tell me what your thoughts were. Tell me about anything that's been going on in wrestling that you have going on in the back of your mind. I'd be excited to talk about it. And on top of that, you can also leave a super thanks. And that's something really cool. It's like a super chat, but you can leave a super thanks, which is a highlighted comment essentially, that you can leave there. And you know what? I will read it next week on the podcast. We'll have a whole segment on super thanks, which I'd be excited to do. All you have to do is leave one. That's a great way to show some support. Become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. That's also a great way to show some support and get access to the live members-only streams that I do with only the members. How about that? So that's also something great. Listen, belltobells.com, your women's wrestling wire, youtube.com/belltobells for all wrestling news, wrestling happenings, interviews. We've got you covered there. You can join the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord for some more wrestling discussion. Link is in the description. You can also tune into my indie wrestling podcast, Hot Shakes and Hand Dogs, which also happens here on the channel. We record every Tuesday. It goes live on Wednesdays. Podcast, YouTube, it's all available there. Co-hosted with Sean Taggart, where we go over the world of independent wrestling over the past week. My God, man, all of this stuff. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching / listening, whichever form you want to do it, whether it be at normal speed or at 2 times the speed. And I hope you kind of listen to me at 2 times the speed, because, yeah, I think it makes for a more entertaining time. Give it a try. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's do this. What should we do? Oh, you know what we should do at this point. This is always what we do. I continue saying nice things about Bill Goldberg.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
You know, he comes off as a guy who really likes to have minty fresh breath.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
Oh, hey, and join the Discord, the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord as well. The link is in the description. Don't forget that. Don't you think that, like, doesn't he give you that impression? That I feel like he's someone who's very self-conscious about his halitosis. I really do. I'm convinced that, Bill, when he goes out on his choppers, and he's got, does he ride with a helmet? Bill Goldberg doesn't ride with a helmet, right? I gotta just be careful not to spoil all my material for the next few weeks. But he's on his chopper, right? And then he gets off like at the roadside bar, right? The roadhouse, as they like to say. And he comes in, and he has his, his big leather jacket, with all the pockets. And before he goes into the roadhouse, to, have a beer, have a cold Coors Light before he goes in, or he dives into like his chest pocket and he pulls out some Tic Tacs, pops a couple in his mouth, swirls them around, crunches them, and he goes in, sits, and then he orders, and people will always remember, the guy, the big tough guy with the nice smelling breath, minty fresh Bill. Oh God, let's just go. Let's just go. All right, let's start by chatting about these allegations that appeared yesterday regarding GCW. I'm going to read the news off of Post Wrestling, an article that was written up regarding all of these. If you don't know exactly what's going on, don't worry, you're about to get briefed. Brett Lauderdale, who is the promoter of GCW, advised not to comment on accusations of using fraudulent COVID-19 test results. So here's the article again off of Post Wrestling. Serious allegations of acquiring fraudulent COVID test results were made against Game Changer wrestling promoter Brett Lauderdale, who has declined to comment for the time being. California-based promoter Mikey Gordon, also known as Dirty Ron McDonald, made accusations that Lauderdale had contacted him regarding acquiring fake COVID test results and stating, "My people," this is a direct quote from Mikey Gordon, Ron McDonald, "My people made over 50 fake COVID test results so he could run shows during the pandemic," unquote. Gordon complained about Lauderdale being, quote unquote, cheap, and made claims of talent making between $50 to $100 paydays and paying for their own rental cars and hotels. Claims which were disputed by wrestler Tony Deppen, who came to the defense of Brett. This is Tony Deppen's quote right here. "Pay for our own hotels. $50, huh? I've never once paid for my hotel, even the first time GCW went to LA years ago. And even when we were drawing 50 people, I was never paid that little." Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful reached out to Lauderdale, who gave him the following statement, quote, "I've referred this matter to my lawyer, and as much as I'd like to comment, I've been advised not to." Since the allegations were made public, several GCW wrestlers have stood up and shared their experiences regarding Lauderdale and GCW's COVID protocols during the pandemic. SoCal Uncensored out there in California tweeted out the following, quote, "I can't confirm any of the accusations being made here, and Dirty Ron often has very messy endings to business relationships, but if true, shame on both promoters. This is a felony, so hopefully law enforcement will look into it." And as far as the wrestlers go, Tony Deppen, Joey Janela, Jordan Oliver have all come out to say, Brett had required them in the past to present positive or negative, test results to COVID, and he was very strict on that. And it's like, if you test positive, sorry, I can't book you. Even Cole Radrick as well. The thing here is that a lot of names ended up being outed in Ron McDonald's accusations, including homicide, But there were a few wrestlers out there. There were Ricky Shane Page and Matthew Justice. There we go. Among others, were outed during all of these releases because McDonald provided some screenshots of DMs that he said were part of that he had with Brett Lauderdale, where Brett Lauderdale is clearly asking for names, asking test results, fake test results for names. Now, I don't know exactly how to. I don't know exactly how to go about this, but I've heard the same things about Dirty Ron McDonald. And by the way, if you don't know who Dirty Ron McDonald is, as mentioned, he's a wrestler / promoter, but this is a guy whose gimmick is, if you're saying Ron McDonald, that kind of sounds like Ronald McDonald. Well, you're not wrong. He dresses himself up suspiciously close to the mascot, to the clown mascot of the McDonald's franchise, and wrestles and wrestles as such, but very dirty. These types of allegations are extremely serious, of course. Coming from Ron, you have to wonder, because he is somewhat, maybe he comes across as a little bitter because, just outing names like that and then starting to talk about how little GCW allegedly pays their talent. It's not exactly a good look, and it sort of gives motive to whatever you're doing. It feels like it's just slander for slander's sake, right? Of course, this is how it feels. I'm not saying this is what it is, but you sort of take a step back and you're like, well, you could have just said, these are the allegations. He asked me to do some fake COVID tests and here are the DMs and move on. But no, he sort of doubled down, tripled down on stuff. He included people who maybe didn't necessarily want to be involved in this. It's kind of a weird situation. So, I don't know. I really don't know what to tell you. As far as the $50 to $100 paydays, look, I have no idea what GCW pays its talent, but it's not uncommon to hear such paydays, on the independent circuit. It's a little weird to hear that from a super indie like GCW that has its regulars, that runs shows every week, that's available on Fight and probably does pretty good buy rates on top of that. It's all a little strange. Maybe when it was still running out of New Jersey, a small operation, sure, could be building off of $50, $100 paydays for the wrestlers, but I'm pretty sure that's maybe very entry level. Just as simple as that. And a lot of people are taking that to heart, but that is a reality out there on the independent circuit. The other reality is, if there are no wrestlers in GCW who are signed to a contract, we have to break out of our main television, main promotion mentality here, where everyone is signed to exclusive contracts. No one is signed to exclusive contracts outside of Nick Gage, who is the exception. They are all literally, absolutely literally, independent contractors. They're not they're not behooved to work only with GCW. They're not they could pull out at any time. They could say, yeah, you know what, I'm good. I'll go find money elsewhere, whatever. If the pay is so terrible and if the conditions are so rotten, well, how has Brett been able to create a very stable running troupe to a degree, a stable series of a stable core group of wrestlers that are, at some point expected to appear on every show. And people are sort of doing their best and angling to get on those shows because they know what it creates for their career. It does create exposure and so on and so forth. If it was so terrible, is my point. If it really was that bad, I don't see why people would stick around. They are completely entitled to leave. Now, do I think that Joey Janela and Tony Deppen coming out and saying, you know what, we've always been well paid? Do I think that's a norm? No. Am I surprised? Of course not. I don't, especially when it comes to Joey Janela. I'm pretty sure that he's not working for $100 a night. So I don't think that's necessarily a fair gauge either, to go out and say, oh, well, look, Joey says he's paid fairly. Of course Joey's paid fairly. Joey is unquestionably a star for the company. He's an attraction. He's a value. He's a draw. Of course he's gonna ask for more money, and he's gonna get it, of course. Maybe when it comes to maybe Cole Radrick, who came out to the defense, maybe he's not up there in the upper echelons yet. Maybe he makes a decent salary, but definitely not as much. So even though the people coming out to say, you know what, I'm paid well, the money has never been an issue. It's people that you don't expect money to be an issue for. Let's hear about the ring crew. Let's hear about the refs. Because it's not just the talent, right? There's a whole bunch of people here. But then again, it's always counterbalanced with people saying, how Britt always takes care of his people. He pays for rentals. He does take care of rooms, which is not unusual on the independents, by the way. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people are shocked and dismayed when they find out that WWE doesn't pay for a single thing in those regards, where wrestlers are expected to handle their transportation and accommodations all by themselves. A lot of indie wrestlers a lot of indie shows will spring for transportation. That's what a lot of sponsorship money goes to, actually. I've sponsored in the past. I've sponsored carpooling in the past for a show. So usually these are things that happen on top of whatever you're getting for your payday. I'm not saying that these allegations should be just swept aside, so on and so forth. Right now we're in a complete and utter gray zone, and Brett did the absolute right thing to just contact his lawyers and be like, look, you know what? What should I do here? Lawyers say, no comment, Brett. We're going to handle this. And because these are very, 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 very serious allegations, which could put Brett in a lot of trouble. But you know who else it could put in a lot of trouble? Ron McDonald. Because he had them forged. So he's putting himself in legal dismay as well. Not to mention the people that got the papers forged. It's not just a GCW, this is a bit of a scorched earth type of situation here. This is kind of a thing that you have to wonder just how smart of a decision this was. Because it's not just egg on Brett's face, okay, Brett ordered it, but you did it? You dumb weirdo? I'm trying to swear less because of the monetization issues. But you know what I mean? It's very weird. It's very weird. I'm interested to see how this develops, and it has to continue as a developing story. We have to keep an eye out on this one because if GCW did do this, which again would be weird, here's another reason why it'd be weird. Brett was very strict with his talent in regards to the COVID policies for the company. He had tweeted about this before and was very, very careful. I find it strange then that suddenly it would turn out that he was faking it and potentially exposing wrestlers to other wrestlers who potentially had COVID if we're getting, if we're forging negative tests, right? So it's kind of weird. But then again, well, you would want to put your best foot forward in this circumstance, right? And during the pandemic, and say, yes, we're very cautious about COVID and whatnot, and then whatever happens behind the scenes happens behind the scenes, right? And then there's that, and then then there's that, and then let's not forget, that collective show that they ran ended up being a super spreader that killed the indies for the next month or so because everyone caught it. It's at this stage, it's a hard one to read, and it's a hard one to just go in and slice down because of who, first of all, the integrity of who's presenting these allegations, right? And the nature of these allegations and everything that followed, the following statements and all the people that he burned in the situation at the same time. Not just him, not just Brett. There's something that doesn't seem quite right here. It's wrestling. I wouldn't put past any promoter to do whatever they could to make sure they could run shows and make money. You know what I mean? So I have a natural distrust just on that level where it's like, well, it's not impossible. Talent has been supportive of Brett in this situation, but then again, I'm like, well, the talent that's coming out is not necessarily the talent that's been targeted by these allegations either. So, we'll see what happens. This is definitely one to follow. Twan Mac, nice to see you. No Bret Hart talk. Just no, unfortunately. And but nice to see you. And JK Schwal left us a super chat. Thank you very much, JK. Who is also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. JK says, saving this, as in the podcast, for the 4-hour flight to Vegas this weekend, so feel free to go long, Hayes. But wanted to stop in and show some support. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Have a great time in Vegas this weekend. Our boy JK Schwal heading out to Double or Nothing. Good times. I hear he's going to party with the Great O'Khan. Have you guys seen this? Have you seen the Great O'Khan? Hey, look, because I don't know how much crossover I get between people who come in and listen to the show and actually hang out on Twitter and stuff. But Great O'Khan has been we're going to talk about it later. Of course, he showed up on Dynamite this week along with Jeff Cobb. So now he's in America. He's in the U.S. Well, he was already here, but he showed up and he's in Vegas and he's been hitting up Vegas. It started off innocuously with a picture of a really ridiculously large hamburger, right? You know how Tomohiro Ishii comes here and he goes to In-N-Out and he takes pictures of him eating his In-N-Out, right? And he's got his nice little burgers but O'Khan ordered this, this insane 12 patty cheeseburger or whatever. It started like that. Then we get a video of him. He's at the Heart Attack Bar and Grill, excuse me. Relatively well known, sort of famous, right? And he's bent over against a rail, and he's got a girl there, and she's whipping his ass with a belt, and he's just taking it. Then he tweets out a picture of himself on the strip with two strippers. He's on his knees. The strippers are their backs are turned to the camera. He's between them, and he has his arms reaching up and grabbing their ass cheeks. And as if that wasn't enough, to top it all off, he posts a picture of himself riding a mechanical penis, kind of like a mechanical bull, but it's It's a gigantic schlong instead. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, look, Great O'Khan he's a kid on spring break is what he is right now. Like, this is like, I live in Quebec. The legal drinking age is 18. In Ontario, it's 21. What do you think would happen when high schoolers would get into spring break? They'd fill buses and come to Quebec to drink. So basically, he's an 18-year-old Ontarian in Quebec, but he's in Vegas, so it's wild. And you cannot but compare this to Alex Zane, right? Who's in Japan right now, and he has his own travelogue, right? And he's taking pictures of the food. He's tasting natto for the first time. He's, in a restaurant, and he's eating raw horse, in sashimi style. And, he's trying all this stuff out, and he's, pictures of the areas that he's visiting and downtown, and he's with Ace Austin, and it's like, look at, and he's loving it, and he's tweeting in Japanese. You have Takashita, who's in America, right? And he's like, I love Cinnabon. I love, theme parks. The theme parks are great. Right? You have all these these trans-Pacific wrestler cultural exchanges that are so wholesome. Then Great O'Khan, he just flips it all. It's and honestly, it's hilarious. It's really, really, really funny. So, I'm here for, it's good stuff. And yes, he's making a lot of American fans right now. I talked about this last week. Seeing that I have watched, all of the Bobby Lashley Omos matches, like from WrestleMania Backlash, and the steel cage match from last week. I feel like I have to see this through now. I feel like I have to see this storyline through regardless. So, for journalistic integrity, or just because I said so, I'm bringing you this week's Bobby Lashley Omos update. All right. So, off of the heels of last week's Monday Night Raw, where Omos threw Bobby Lashley against the cage in their cage match, and the cage siding collapsed, allowing Bobby Lashley's 2 feet to hit the floor. Of course, we returned this week with Bobby Lashley saying that he has an almighty challenge for Omos, and Lashley said that he wanted to fight Omos at Hell in a Cell, which is the upcoming PLE, a private luxury Escobar, which is upcoming for World Wrestling Entertainment. And he said, well, I'm going to fight you, but you guys get to pick the stips if MVP can defeat me in a match later tonight. Well, guess what happens? The match happens, and there's, double teaming and shenanigans, which force Bobby Lashley to lose to Montavious Vradvan Pranspers. Due to this, that's it. Lashley, he was counted out of the match. That's how he lost, right? So MVP later decided that the stipulation for their match at Hell in a Cell is going to be a 2-on-1 match, a handicap match. Omos and Bobby Lashley against the almighty Robert Lashley. So let's consider this. This is the rubber match, essentially, of big time PLE matches between the two. We had the WrestleMania match, We had the WrestleMania Backlash match, and now we're having the WrestleMania Hell in a Cell match, which is going to end with a WrestleMania victory for either of these WrestleMania WWE superstars. So it's exactly like Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, only, one of the guys is very tall. Also, this stuff bums me out. WWE announced this week that Nikkita Lyons is injured. She had to be taken out of the Women's Breakout Tournament. Article off of Post Wrestling here. Nikkita Lyons is out of the Women's Breakout Tournament. The first installment of the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament is coming to a close. And Nikkita Lyons was scheduled to be in a semi-final match against Fallon Henley. During a backstage interview with Henley, Mackenzie Mitchell announced that Nikkita is sidelined with an injury and is out of the tournament. The exact nature was not shared, but Josh Briggs, who was aligned with Fallon Henley on screen, stated that the injury occurred while Nikkita was training. That really sucks. Honestly, it really sucks. And I've been hard on NXT 2.0. I've been hard on Nikkita Lyons, but Nikkita is one of the rare bright spots of NXT 2.0 that people all seem to gravitate to, and she was in the midst of a push. So that all of this sucks. Like, the timing of this sucks. And it's not the first time we hear people in WWE getting injured while they're training, right? Like, what the hell do they have them do? What are they doing in these training regimens where you end up hurting yourself and you can't wrestle? Because that's what happened to Bayley. But I feel like, honestly, regardless of what I feel as for Nikkita Lyons as a wrestler, it sucks. Like, it really, really sucks for her. I feel bad because she was in the midst of a push. She was in the midst of getting some good on screen time, and clearly, the company was behind her. It stinks, and this is the kind of thing that bums me out when young wrestlers get injured out so quickly, especially in the midst of something like this. So it kind of sucks, right? Replacing Nikkita in the tournament is Tiffany Stratton, and that's a downgrade if I ever heard one. The winner of Stratton versus Henley will meet Roxanne Perez, aka Roxy, in the finals. Roxanne bested Lash Legend on the May 24 NXT. Thank God. Hope she heals up quick. Hope she gets back to it very, very soon. I think, NXT 2.0 needs all the bright spots it can, as opposed to anything else. Since we're on the topic of WWE, because we were talking about Nikkita Lyons, let's talk about this news that came out not as late as today. That the World Wrestling Entertainment Company will be moving Money in the Bank to the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. In an email sent to those who had purchased tickets for the show, I'm reading this off of the Figure 4 Wrestling online website of wrestling news. In an email sent to those who had purchased tickets for the show, WWE announced on Thursday that Money in the Bank is being moved to the MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas. The pay-per-view was originally scheduled to be held at the larger Allegiant Stadium, which is the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. Money in the Bank is taking place Saturday, July 12th. Is also July 2nd, not July 12th. I look, I'm an English major. Don't start. I suck with numbers. Money in the Bank is taking place on Saturday, July 2nd. UFC 276 is also being held in Las Vegas that night, headlined by a middleweight title fight between Israel Adzadania and Jared Cannonier. those who had already purchased tickets to Money in the Bank will automatically be refunded. An exclusive pre-sale for those ticket holders will begin at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, June 1st. This would have been the first Money in the Bank pay-per-view to be held in a stadium. The report goes on to say that Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast reported last month that WWE's goal in running more stadium shows wasn't necessarily to sell out every show, but it would allow WWE to draw more crowds in the 20,000 to 35,000 range. Allegiant Stadium has a listed capacity of 65,000. The MGM Grand Garden Arena's capacity is 17,000. As it is said very eloquently in the chat, who thought that running multiple stadium shows would, within a short period of time, would burn out your audience, right? Now, the first question that people have on their minds is like, why are they running stadium shows so much? Well, as Zarian said, there is this, they did have a goal to want to fill out their PLEs a little more than just running basketball arenas. 20 to 35,000 people, that's a significant gate. The target isn't necessarily to sell out an arena. The second part is, and this is fairly well known, the stadiums right now, most stadiums are running at a much lower cost than they did before the pandemic, because they didn't do anything during the pandemic. So they just want to get people back out there. They want to create more potential, more events. So they're just running at a lower cost right now. So when you think about it that way, it kind of makes sense for WWE to say to themselves, well, look, if we can pack 20,000 people in an arena as opposed to, let's say, like a 16,000, 17,000 seated basketball arena. So that means more tickets. Maybe the stadium costs a little more, but it's not that much more. It's kind of like when New Japan ran the Tokyo Dome, during the pandemic, like at a quarter capacity. Like, it was sad to see the Tokyo Dome so empty. There was that one show that they ran where Kevin Kelly had to tell us as we were watching, hey guys, this isn't a sound issue that we're having. What you hear right now is rain falling on the Tokyo Dome, right? There was like the venue was so empty that the rain was echoing, right? So that's not good. It's not good. But you understand why they did it, because they could fill more people in a quarter filled Tokyo Dome than they could a quarter filled Budokan, right? So that's the thing. So you can understand the logic in wanting to do it. Now, the logic of running a pay-per-view on the same night that an event, a show, on the same night that UFC is, right? And apparently a big middleweight title fight on top of that. I don't know exactly who these fighters are, but from what I understand, this is a hotly anticipated middleweight fight. That will drain people. And you know what else will drain people? I'll tell you what. Running a show within like just over a month away from your competitor, running a show in in the same city and selling that one out. At some point, I'm not saying, we're burning the territory, but, I think there's been a lot of ill-advised decisions that were made here. As is mentioned in the chat right now, you're not getting a refund? It's what it says in the email. You're not getting a refund. And yet everything I've read has told me that everyone is like automatically getting a refund. You can keep the reservation. They will transfer you your seats to a comparable location if you contact them before June 3rd. This is classic WWE stuff. But here's the point. Look, it doesn't change my point that I want to make moving forward, regardless of whether you're getting a full refund or not. Because refunding everyone and then like putting everything up for lottery again is kind of a jerk move. Because I'm sure there's some people who have flight plans, who have, what if they booked a flight to Vegas, but they can't get a ticket for the new Money in the Bank show? Because here's the thing: is that right now, see that the report here says that they sold 16,000 tickets. They sold about 16,000 tickets for the show, while the MGM Grand Arena's capacity is 17,000 seats. But that's 17,000 seats total, not counting what they have to take away from the show, take away from seating space for the stage, for production, because it's a live show. So it's not a full 17,000, right? So technically speaking, there's a very fair chance that the 16,000 some people will not all get a seat at Money in the Bank, because the venue is smaller. And here's the weird thing: is that WrestleTix was saying that they had distributed 19,594 tickets. So I'm not quite sure what the real number is. WrestleTix has always been fairly accurate on this. They're reporting like 16,000. One way or another, there's going to be people who are not going to be able to have a ticket to see the show. They're going to be the people who've already bought a ticket will not be able to go to the MGM Grand Garden Arena. And that's very strange. And thank you for Twitter user TW Jack Foley for helping me out here in regards, because I was wondering what the setup then was for Allegiant, right? Because Allegiant, everyone says it's a 70,000 seat arena. What the hell were they thinking? Well, it's a 65,000 seat arena that can be expanded to 70,000 for NFL games, right? The setups then for concerts and wrestling is different and is definitely not up in the 60,000 range, right? So SummerSlam, when they had SummerSlam at the Allegiant last year, if I'm not mistaken, 51,000 people, which is a super decent, I think, for a stadium show whose typical capacity for an NFL game is 65,000. I think that's very, very, very good. So if they were at 27,000, that was according to WrestleTix, that was the setup for Allegiant, 27,114. Distributing, and if they had distributed, as WrestleTix says, 19,594, that's still a pretty good amount. It's strange that they would want to bump it then. Maybe WWE wanted to be able to open up more sections, because they had set up for 27,000, but when they set up for 27,000, whatever they set up for initially, it's always in the perspective of eventually being able to open up more spaces. Exactly like what New Japan did with Forbidden Door. The New Japan and AEW did for Forbidden Door. They all do this. They do this for every show. They'll open up a certain amount of tickets. Then if they sell out or demand gets really, really high, then they'll start opening up more sections. They'll open up more sections. They'll reduce, the footprint that production has, whatever. But they'll start opening up more sections. That's what they always do. So of course WWE was like, we'll set up for 27,000, but our target is probably, more along the lines of 35,000, that's probably what they were gunning for, probably saw the ticket sales flatlining and they're like, look, we're never going to be able to fill this out. Let's just hit the bricks. That's pure speculation. It's a downgrade, and it kind of sucks for the people who might get caught with tickets, with having purchased tickets and not actually being able to go to the show because of the downgrade, because there's just going to be less seats. There's more tickets sold than there are seats, whatever the scenario you're looking at right now, whether it's the $16,000 ticket sale number that you believe, or the 19,500 one. It comes down to the same basic outcome, that some people are not going to be able to get a ticket for the show. That kind of sucks, man. It really does kind of suck. Thank you, everyone, for still being here, for hanging out. If you just popped in, and thank you, I appreciate it. Do consider giving a like on the video. Consider sharing it out. We still got lots of stuff to talk about. Some fun, and exciting stuff to talk about here. We're going to be talking some New Japan. Let's go right in. Are you guys ready to talk about the best of Super Juniors? Because now it's getting crunchy. Now it's getting interesting. Now there's 3 nights left. There's 3 rounds of block action left. So now we're getting down to the wire. Now we can start, looking at point scores, scratching the surface a little bit, and then starting to go, all right, let's go see what's going to happen here. So, first of all, before we go anywhere further, since we're on the topic of New Japan, but just before we get into the best of Super Juniors here, Bushiroad CEO talked about lifting the crowd noise restriction. So that's exciting. I'm going to read this off of, once again, Post Wrestling. It says, here's the article. Tokyo Sports has a feature story on their site about people not being able to verbally make noise at wrestling shows in Japan. This has been a restriction that's been put in since the COVID era for reasons, apparently. If you scream, if you shout while in the COVID era wearing a mask, you will infect other people. Anyway, they received comments from both Hiromu Takahashi and AEW's Wheeler Yuta on the matter. There's an excerpt in the piece which reads that Yuta informed the publication of Bryan Danielson's past comments that he is hesitant to come to Japan until people are allowed to verbally make noise again at shows. Quote, in the US and other countries, the ban on cheering has long since been lifted, according to Wheeler Yuta, who is competing for AEW in the US. Big-name wrestler Bryan Danielson is also reluctant to come to Japan until the ban on crowd noise is lifted. This shows how important cheering is to wrestlers as well. Takaaki Kidani, Bushiroad founder and president, touched on New Japan possibly lifting the restriction at the Best of Super Juniors final event on June 3rd. Kidani says, quote, I don't know whether we will open up the entire venue or just an area for verbal crowd noise, but if it is possible, I think New Japan could do it at the upcoming Nippon Budokan show, which is the June 3rd show. If it is possible, I would consider introducing it as soon as possible. As it stands right now, DDT has announced that they're going to start letting fans cheer again in July, at their first show in July. It's a bit of a weird one, because I really don't know why they're still cracking down on crowd noise, and there's a lot of things I don't understand in the world. There's a lot of things I don't understand. I don't understand how crowd noise helps spread the COVID virus. I don't know how it makes it worse. But I do think that, look, as a lot of people like to call it, the New Japan clap crowds have been a continuous, what's the word I'm looking for? They've been an ongoing problem, a difficulty for people to watch on TV. Like the silence and everything was very, very, very rough. I think it's pretty okay. Like, I never quite understood the science behind it, if there was any at all. I never quite understood it. I still don't. I don't know why they're not doing it. I don't know why they're not lifting the ban. It's just like, hey, yep, here we go, let's do it. Why they have to make an announcement or just go ahead and do it. But look, if they're considering doing it, and they're considering doing it like within the span of a week at this point, I'm all for it. Let's go for the Best of Super Juniors finals, right? For the block finals, let's just do it. Come on. Anyway, that's what I wanted to get into before we actually talked about the Super Juniors. Let's go. So as I said, Best of Super Juniors, we are 3 rounds. There are 3 rounds left before we put a cork on edition number 29, before we tie it up with a bow and throw it into the ocean, and then hopefully someone on the other side finds it and uncorks it and is like, wow, Best of Super Juniors 29. Seriously, don't mind me, right? As it stands right now on Block A, Ace Austin leads the pack at 10 points. We've tied for 8 is Taiji Ishimori and Alex Zane. Then we have Hiromu Takahashi, Yo, Clark Connors, and Sho all at 6. Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Francesco Akira at 4 points. And Rizuke Taguchi with 2. Over on Block B. Block B is an entirely different story. El Desperado and El Fantasmo and El Lindemann are all tied for first place with 8 points each. Robbie Eagles, Bushi, Wheeler Yuta, Dookie, and TJP all have 6 points. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dudes who have 6 points apiece. Master Wato has 4, and Titan is at the bottom at number 2. Now, can we start talking about eliminations? Absolutely, we can. At this point, right now, Taguchi is out. He's eliminated at 2 points. There's no way he's going to be able to catch up. I would say Akira and Kanemaru as well in Block A are I don't think you like there are weird scenarios in which Kanemaru and Akira, if they won each of their next 3 matches and got 6 points, and Ace Austin and everyone else, sort of didn't make any, they couldn't. They could, hang on a second, I might be talking through my hat here, because I don't think there is a situation where Francesco Akira could win here. Because he would have to win all 6. Oh, he hasn't fought Ace Austin yet. Okay. So there's no tiebreaker yet. So he'd have to beat Kanemaru, Ace Austin, and Taiji Ishimori. He'd have to beat all 3 of those guys. There's a chance he might beat Kanemaru, and that will seal the deal for either guy. And I mean, look, he can always play spoiler, right? He could beat Ace Austin. He could beat Taiji Ishimori, but I don't think he's going to get suddenly 6 points and then tie for 10, and Ace Austin Ace Austin loses all of his matches, and then Taiji Ishimori and Alex Zane only win 1 more. I mean, anything is possible, of course, but I don't think it makes sense at this point to have Akira have this big comeback. I think they're both out. I think Kanemaru and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, I think as far as just logic, I think they're out. Things are a lot clearer, I find, in Block A. The the field is much more limited at this point. Whereas Block B is still it's a Far West type of situation. Titan is out. He's not making it. He's not going to win. There are too many people here. Again, everyone else would have to lose for him to win, and that's just like it's mathematically impossible. I don't think Watto has a little more of a chance because ultimately he just has to win. He too has. If he wanted to really have a chance, he'd have to win his next 3 matches. I think he's effectively out as well. But then we start talking about Doki, Yuta, Bushi, Robbie Eagles. They're all at 6. TJP. These are all guys who still have, who very, very much have who still very much have the potential to make it to the to score a couple of more points and get some upsets. Like the field is still very wide here because Desperado, Phantasmo, Lindemann, they all lead just by a match. So it's still very, very much open. Lindemann is is on a run right now. After a bit of a slow start, he's really into things here. Phantasmo's been fantastic, and so has El Desperado. I'm still kind of expecting Wheeler Yuta to start plugging it, to start getting in here. But let's go see something that's always a bit telling here. What do we have on the final night? On the final night, we have TJP and Wheeler Yuta as a match. I'm not sure if these are main events or whatnot, but we do have this as a match for Block B, and we have El Desperado and El Phantasmo, and we have Bushi and El Lindemann. See, this makes me think that these 3 matches will have implications for the end, for the finish. It makes me feel like El Desperado and El Phantasmo might be the leaders until the very end. Like this might be the breaking point for them. It might be the match that really determines who the winner is. We might have in the evening a little earlier on, Wheeler Yuta maybe came back from some losses, and then like he comes up and he ties. He starts tying people and he defeats TJP and he's on top, and he's still in the running. He still has a chance, right? I think Lindemann, it's very fair that they do that with him as well. So these are interesting matchups for the finish of Block B that make me think that this might be the field. I don't think Bushi is going to be a factor, but I think El Lindemann, Desperado, just the fact that Desperado and Phantasmo are having a match together, that's a sign to me that these might be your 2 finalists for, or at least, the 2 top guys that absolutely need the win to win the block. I think Lindemann might come in a good position. Maybe Bushi will spoil him. We've seen this before in the G1 and so on. I think Yuta might come in and might place himself in a high spot, right? He might actually tie Desperado, and he might tie Desperado and ELP and El Phantasmo, because if I'm not mistaken, he lost to El Desperado, right? Where are we? Block B. There we go. Wheeler Yuta lost to El Desperado, but he hasn't had his match with El Phantasmo yet. So that could be a sign there as well. It's still very interesting. See, Block B is still all over the place. There's some really good stuff to come out of here. Block A, as I said, I think that right now, this tournament is Ace Austin's to lose. You know what I mean? He's in a very good position. His 2 closest competitors right now are Taiji Shimori and Alex Zane. Well, guess what? Ace Austin holds a win over both. He has the tiebreaker on both guys. He's only lost one match to Hiromu Takahashi. Otherwise, he's had a pristine tournament. So he has the tiebreakers. So even if Ishimori and or Zayn tie with him, he still has the tiebreaker and he wins. So really, all he has to do is win 2 matches and he's golden. As far as in that type of situation, right? Where Ishimori and Zayn win all 3 of their next matches. He just needs to win 2. If he wins all 3 of his matches, well, he is the undisputed winner. And his final match, and he's got a bit of an easy end of tournament at the same time, right? Because he's got Yo, but okay, we're going to talk about Yo in a second. But he's got Clark Connors, who's not having a great tournament. I'm looking at Alex Zane here, pardon me. He's got Taguchi, who is at the bottom of the barrel right now. He's got Francesco Akira, who is not that big of a threat this tournament. And he's got Sho, who can potentially be a spoiler. It would be reasonable to say, well, Austin can lose 2 of these matches and lose 1 of these matches and win 2. I think that's a plausible scenario with how things are going, right? Because on top of that, Ace Austin, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Ace Austin and Alex Zane, they're being absolute. The audience is in love with them. The Japanese crowds have taken to both these guys tremendously. So as it stands right now, Ace Austin is in such a good position to win. It's ridiculous. As far as Ishimori and Zayn and Alex Zane go, well, they're in a pretty good spot as well. Alex Zane holds wins over Taguchi, Kanemaru, who are out, Kanemaru and Akira, right? And he has a win over Sho as well. But he still has to fight Yo, Clark Connors, and Hiromu Takahashi, who could. Any of these 3 guys could spoil it, especially Yo, especially Hiromu. Although Hiromu right now, they are working the angle, the story, that his knees are shot, and everyone has been using them to take out Hiromu. So that could be an outlier here that could potentially keep Hiromu from winning the block. Because it's not impossible for him to win, but his trajectory is a little harder. I'll talk about that in a second. So for Zayn right now, and he also has Yo, and Yo right now we're seeing a little bit of what happened in the Best of Super Juniors tournament last year, where Yo suddenly got on a winning streak. All of a sudden, was losing his matches, but man, why would you do that? Because Yo, I think he's being purposefully boring. I think that's his gimmick, but he's very boring. And I think his matches are solid, well worked, but they're uninspired. There's no spark to it. And I think that's the thing. He's supposed to be stoic but I mean, even when you're stoic, you have to be able to transfer some type of energy to the audience to understand that you're not just really going through the motions kind of thing. So are they going to continue with Yo down this path of, well, here he comes again with another last minute winning streak? Because if he does that, he could ruin the day for Alex Zane. Hiromu, if he turns it around, could ruin the day for Alex Zane as well. And Clark Connors is he's a bit uneven right now. Like, he's a bit of a wild card. He's 50-50 right now. So they still could go either way with him. Still could give him a win. I don't think he's winning the block, don't get me wrong, but they still could give him some potential, at least a potential win, right? As far as Taiji Ishimori goes, well, he has Clark Connors as well, Hiromu as well, that's on the final night, and Francesco Akira. Now, Ishimori is the current champion. I don't think he's going to win the block. I think you could make a case for him to be in the final conversation, where the points total could end up being between him and Ace Austin. Absolutely. You could absolutely do that. But as it stands, like, he has to win his next 3 to even have a chance to think that he might be able to beat Ace Austin. Because if Austin wins all 3 of his next, he's unquestionably the winner. If Ishimori ties with Austin, Austin still wins because he has the tiebreaker on Ishimori. God, I love this part of this part of round robins. I really do. So a lot of people are surprised. They're looking at this and they're like, Hiromu's not having a great tournament. He only has 6 points, and he's, kind of the ace of the division. And although you could make an argument that El Desperado's becoming the ace of the division, Hiromu's like, you're sort of looking at the layout here, and you're taking a look at everything, and you're going, okay. Is there a possibility for Hiromu to make a comeback? Because, as I said over the past couple of nights, they've really been hammering home the idea that his knees are shot. Kanemaru did pull off some dastardly attacks that really, really worked on the knee. So that's been the story. Right now, Hiromu is 50-50. He has wins over Taguchi, Ace Austin, and Francesco Akira. Now, the fact that he has the win over Ace Austin, he's the only one in the tournament who has a win over Austin so far. That could be his ace in the hole. Because all he'd have to do at this point is win his next 3 for 12 points. But then Ace Austin would have to lose 2 out of his next 3 matches. Let's refresh our memory. Who does Ace Austin have left to beat? Taguchi, Akira, and Sho. I believe that it is reasonable. It's reasonable to believe that he could lose 1 of those matches. 2, then you're getting into real deal spoiler territory here. But I think there's a reason why Hiromu and Ishimori both have a match together on the final night of Block A. And I think that's because they're going to tie. They're going to go into that evening tied up, and whoever wins gets to 12 points to tie up with Ace Austin and maybe move forward. That is an entirely invisible... That's a situation that I absolutely see possible to happen. I could see Taguchi pulling out a sneaky win and Sho as well. Like, it's not impossible in my brain to see Ace Austin lose 2 matches in a row and throw his lead. But it's literally his tournament to lose at this point. He's way too set up right now for the victory. So everything points to Ace Austin winning, but also everything points to the showdown being between, for Block A, of course, being between Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori. Block B, again, super hard to call, but looking at the final night of action for Block B, I think your final field is El Desperado, Wheeler Yuta, El Fantasmo, and El Lindemann. I think that's your... Let's throw in TJP. That's your final field. I think after this weekend's show, they have a show, I think, on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. I think after the Saturday show, things are going to start falling into place a lot more for Block B. Look, this has been a good tournament so far. Again, there hasn't been the mind-melting, 5-star match that everyone is going to rave about, that we're going to talk about for decades. It hasn't been that kind of tournament, But every night has been filled with great pro wrestling. Great, more than competent, like stellar pro wrestling. Just by some of the best guys in the world. And literally, it's just been fantastic. And if you want a couple of recommendations over the past couple of days, I would give you ELP, El Fantasma versus Titan, was quite good from May 22nd. I'd go for Wheeler Yuta and El Desperado from the same show. It was the main event. Very good. Francesco Akira versus Alex Zane on May 24. TJP versus Titan on the same show as well. Probably Titan's best match. Ace Austin versus Yo was very good as well. I really enjoyed it. Robbie Eagles versus Master Wato was very surprising. Robbie Eagles brings the best out of everyone. Ace Austin versus Alex Zane on May 25th. A lot of people are saying that that's the best match of the tournament so far. I have trouble disagreeing. On the May 25th show, there was also El Fantasmo versus Doki. Lots of fun. That was a really, really, really fun match in which Doki sneaked out a win, but very good. And TJP versus Robbie Eagles as well from the May 25th show. I did not see the May 26th show. I'm not up to date as far as my viewing goes, so I'm sure some great stuff happened there. But this has been just a fantastic tournament. It's been such a fun pro wrestling tournament. Can't recommend it enough. And you know what? If I'm not mistaken, the May 24 show is free on New Japan World. You don't need an account, and you can go watch the show. 3 hours, a little under 3 hours. And you know what? The matches are like 9 to 17 minutes long. And we're doing double block nights. So there are no filler matches. They're all tournament matches, 10 matches, 9 to 17, like the main event matches, like 15, 17 minutes. Nothing that'll make you go, oh, is this ever going to end? All perfectly timed, all work really well. Well worked on top of that. Just some great stuff. All of this, of course, is going to come to a head on June 3rd, where we're going to get the finals. And then after that, on June 12th, we're heading over to Dominion. That show is starting to take more and more shape here. Of course, headlined by Kazuchika Okada versus Jay White for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. We also have an IWGP Tag Team Championship match where champions Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale of the Bullet Club are going to be taking on Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. If Great O'Khan ever leaves Vegas ever again. We have a Never Open Weight Championship match as well. Champion Tama Tonga takes on the Machine Gun Carl Anderson. And we also have a King of Pro Wrestling Championship match between Shingo Takagi, current champ, against Taichi. We don't know what the stipulations are yet. So, interesting card so far. There will probably be the winner of the Best of Super Juniors getting his IWGP Junior Heavyweight title shot there as well. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how Dominion continues to set up. And look, I'm going to lay this down again because I want this out there as much as possible. Because I got a feeling. I got a feeling in my bones. Dear sweet viewers of the Mr. Warren Hayes show, listeners of the Mr. Warren Hayes show. I think Kazuchika Okada is losing the IWGP Heavyweight Championship to Jay White on that night. And I've mentioned it. I've talked about it on my Double or Nothing prediction show that I did with Jeff Hawkins that you should absolutely watch. Not right now, after we're done. I was on the Bob Culture podcast last night and I talked about it some more. By the way, thank you again to Rob and everyone on the show for having me. Always a great time. My second time there, just fantastic wrestling talk, and I was very glad to be able to be there. Shout out to Bob and to everyone there. Go check that out on the Bob Culture YouTube channel, podcast everywhere. Jump in, join in, listen to the convo. It's a good one on top of that. What I'm trying to say here is I want everyone to make sure that this is clear. I believe that at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view between New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling, I think the show sold out. That's fine. But what's the next step? What do you want? You want people to buy your show, right? You want people to buy the pay-per-view. What do you do then? What do? You have to put on a big match. The biggest match you can put on that show that will draw the two biggest guys you can put in a singles match for that show are Kazuchika Okada and CM Punk. Again, I've talked about this, but I want to make sure we're clear. It is the money match. That's the one that will draw people to plunk down $60 to watch your show. You can try anyone else. Look, would I like to see Kazuchika Okada versus Bryan Danielson? Of course. And that is a big time match, don't get me wrong. But Okada versus CM Punk is the biggest name value match. It's bigger than Danielson, bigger than Mox. This is the one. That's the one you want to slate for your show. That's the one that people are going to buy pay-per-views for. That's what they're going to do in Japan. Because you want them to do it in Japan. You want them to do it in North America. People in Japan, they know who CM Punk is. What are you talking about? Everyone does. He's a huge star. Kazuchika Okada, huge star. He's a draw in North America. He's a draw everywhere. But he is a draw here. People pay money to see him. They paid money to see him play in a tag team match a couple of weeks ago in Washington. He comes out for his tag team match. People go nuts. So what does this have to do with the Dominion? As I said, and I'll say it again, because no titles. My prediction, it's out there. CM Punk is losing at Double or Nothing. Hangman Adam Page is retaining the title. Kazuchika Okada loses at Dominion in a couple of weeks. Loses the title. Why? Because that's the match you want. And the minute that either one of these guys has a title, then it blurs everything. It becomes predictable, first and foremost. Because, of course, the champion is not going to lose, right? And there's no way Tony Khan and Gedo are going to sit face to face to each other and agree that, oh, my guy's going to do the job. It'd be worse if both of them had their titles. If both of them had the world titles, it'd be worse. Then again, if they want to strap both of those guys and have them fight at Forbidden Door, I am stoked for the politics. This is it'll be the kind of thing that I'll be excited to read the book in 10 years. What really happened at Forbidden Door? Christ, I'd be stoked for that. Trust me on this. Like, honestly, what is a bigger match for Forbidden Door than CM Punk and Kazuchika Okada? I can't think of another one. I can't think of anyone that is as big. Name value. And both guys can work. Should we talk about Dynamite now? I believe so. Let's talk about we're going to recap, as I usually do, AEW Dynamite. 3rd year anniversary show. 3 years already. 3 years of AEW. And I guess it's next year that AEW is gonna go bankrupt. I guess it's probably next year now. Because that goalpost keeps getting moved, right? It's because now it's like it's the video game, right? That's going to sink AEW. Too much money spent, right? I think that's the one thing. And then we're going to move over to and then the other thing is That's right. They're not going to be on TBS anymore. Time Warner's Warner Discovery Warner Discover the Warner's Discovery work. The brothers of Discovery, the Warner brothers of Discovery. they're not going to renew TNT. They're not going to renew AEW, right? AEW is done. I guess it's next year. DGMC used his milestone message as a member 25 months. Holy hell, man. Thank you so much. Over 2 years as a member. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. He says Double or Nothing has 87 matches to counter program the Heat versus the Celtics. Did you hear this, though? Yeah, by the way, hi Pluggo. Welcome to the chat. Nice to see you. Welcome. One of the two beards. Did you hear that Tony Khan said that he wants to delay the start of the main event until the NBA game is done? Did you guys hear this? And I'm like, why, Tony? You're on pay-per-view. Like, technically speaking, everyone who paid $50 is kind of committing to watching your show. And at the very least, they'll have they might have 2 screens, but they'll be I don't quite understand the logic. If he was on network TV, if it was a Sunday night special where they had a Dynamite show and they were on a Sunday night, like on cable or on a network show, on a network channel, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I understand. But it doesn't quite. The people who will be watching your show, your pay-per-view, are committed to watch your pay-per-view, right? You're not you're not angling for ratings here. And those who won't, because they're like, nah, man, I'm not going to watch wrestling tonight because I've got Raiders, not the Raiders, the Heat versus the Celtics. They're not going to be like, after the match, whoo, what a great match. Oh, the pay-per-view's not done yet? Here, let me plunk down the $60 to watch the last half hour. No one's going to do that. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Let's talk about Dynamite that opened up with the steel cage match, the last of Wardlow's trials to get his match at Double or Nothing, where he had to wrestle Shawn Spears with MJF as a special referee. And guess what? Pals, chums, friends, buddies, acquaintances, and numerous alliance people alike. Wardlow pulled off the surprise, and he defeated Shawn Spears. And look, this was never about the match. If you came into this match with expectations on work rate and dramatic in-ring storytelling and whatnot, you were definitely, surely, absolutely, most likely terribly disappointed. But that wasn't the point. This was about the angle. It's a continuation of the angle and of Wardlow's rise to the top here. Wardlow comes in cuffed as per usual, and Max is in the ring, and he has a referee. What a nice little detail. Came in with the ref shirt, but the stripes were all Burberry pattern. Just brilliant stuff. As I said, this wasn't about the match, but it was about the angle. Wardlow comes in cuffed, and MJF can't find the keys. He's going, oh, jeez, man. So MJF and Spears put the boots to Wardlow. They double team him for a bit. Wardlow eventually confronts MJF, who mocks him, and Wardlow's just had enough, and he snaps the cuffs. All these weeks, he's just been playing along, all along. He could have just hulked up, get all the juices flowing as a snap. So we get an avalanche senton by Wardlow. He covers Shawn Spears, but MJF just won't count. Spears hits the C4. Wardlow kicks out despite a fast count by MJF. Spears gets out of the cage, gets the chair. The chair, you know which one I'm talking about. MJF then holds Wardlow. Sean Spears swings, Wardlow breaks free. MJF gets brained accidentally by the chair. And then you have this great moment of cinema with the camera angles where Spears is just like, I just completely shit the bed here. And Wardlow rises behind him. Just perfect camera positioning. They planned this out. This was all charted. This was all mapped. But so well done. Crowd was eating it up. We get a powerbomb symphony on Sean Spears. Remsburg runs in. He counts the 3. Wardlow gets his match against MJF. And then the security dweebs start running into the cage, right? You guys remember the video game Lemmings? You remember the video game Lemmings, where you control these little lemming characters that all they do was walk forward, and if they fell into a pit of fire, they fell into a pit of fire and they died. They walked into spikes. They'd walk onto spikes and die. You know, the electricity. They didn't know. They just kept walking forward, just kept filing through. That's what this reminded me of. All of the guys just one after the other. One guy comes in, boom, he gets murdered. Another guy comes in, boom, gets murdered. Another guy, just one after the other, filing through the door. And Jeff even grabs one of the guys, throws him against the cage, and he folds over between the cage and the ring on the floor. Just good stuff. MJF finally rises out of unconsciousness, and he hits the bricks, and you have this fantastic visual of Wardlow at the end, who's climbed to the top of the cage, and he's screaming his lungs out. He looks like a champion. He looks like a star. There is nothing you can add at this point that has not already been said. Every beat of this feud has been absolutely perfect and has had the absolutely perfect crescendo to this moment. Now, Wardlow should win. He should. You know, I say it multiple times, and I think it's easy to overthink booking when you can just go with the easy route here, and I think the easy route is his victory. But with everything that happened and how much egg MJF has on his face right now, I wouldn't be surprised if they stretch this out a little more. Look, I talk about this on the prediction show. You guys can go check that out. This was good. This was good. Next, we got the Adam Page CM Punk face-to-face situation. Tony Schiavone is in the ring. And then both of the guys eventually do come out to join him. CM Punk says it's safe to say that the biggest moment of his career happened right here in Las Vegas. He's referring to the pipe bomb, of course. He says he's grateful to be in the position he's in. He says he plans to walk out of Double or Nothing as the AEW World Champion. But he doesn't quite understand why Hangman is taking this so personally. Well, Hangman says that he hasn't been waiting for this moment, this in-ring, for weeks, but rather for months. And he says, you know what? I was ready to sit at the top of that ramp, cross-legged, and light a pipe bomb and let it roll down to watch it blow up in your face, CM Punk. And he mused as to how good it would feel and how much of a full circle moment it would be for Punk. But now that they're in this moment, Page realizes that he can't do it. And not because he's afraid, because the more he thinks about it, the more he thinks that this is something that CM Punk would do, right? And it's not about pettiness or cowardness. He just thinks that it's not the right thing to do. And instead, he's just going to tell him how he feels. He says he doesn't hate Punk, but he does pity him He has no respect for what he's done since he's joined AEW. He thinks he wants the title, but he doesn't get it. It's not about what happens in the ring. This is still Paige talking, of course. It's not about what happens in the ring. It's what happens, as he says, after the red light turns off. In those small, quiet moments backstage when nobody's looking. This is where Paige seems to see things about CM Punk that we don't quite get. Punk, he says that Punk likes to talk a big game, but this place here is home for Paige. This is his home. On Sunday, he's not going to be defending the title against CM Punk. He'll be defending AEW from Punk. CM Punk says that he still doesn't understand why he's taking it so personally. He's a little confused. He's talking like this is some big riddle. But if he's so upset, he has to do something about it on Sunday. He also adds, the roads. He tells Adam Page, he says, the roads that you traveled to get here, I paved those roads. And I chopped the trees down that made the lumber so that you could make this your house. He's not entirely wrong. He says, why wait till Sunday? I'll shake your hand at the pay-per-view when we're done. But why wait till Sunday? I'll shake your hand right now. Hangman refuses the handshake. Punk shoves him, and Page potatoes him. Like right on the button. Blop. I thought this was fantastic. I had chills. Don't want anyone to ever tell me ever again Adam Page doesn't know how to cut a promo. Adam Page will cut a promo when it's time for him to cut this type of promo. This was fantastic. Now, there's a lot of contention around this promo because there's a lot of people who were like, I don't understand. What is he talking about? Right? Not saying it's perfect. But to me, there is a clear, straight line for anyone who's been watching AEW and paying attention and connecting things. There's a lot of things that make sense here. Because the reasons that Page doesn't like CM Punk are not specifically linked to anything that happened in this feud. This is a culmination of things. We've established in a feud with Eddie Kingston that CM Punk is no angel. And if you're even, if you follow, wrestling online and you like to consider yourself, smartened up to the business and you follow the stories of the past and wrestler history and wrestling history, you know that CM Punk is he's no choir boy. He's pissed some people off. He has a reputation for being difficult to work with, and he has been. Look, the stories are numerous, and there are people who legitimately don't like him for multiple reasons. For multiple reasons. And when I say they, I mean AEW, have been hinting that backstage there's still some stuff going on. There's stuff happening in the back. Could be a fourth wall break, could be some kayfabe just based on the story we know. And I saw wrestling journalists go, "Oh, the more you know about CM Punk, the more the story makes sense." And that's not cool. Because I don't think you have to know all that much. I think this is all based around the legend of CM Punk, ultimately. Of, yes, he's come back. He's, the prodigal son, the Jesus of wrestling, whatever you want to call him. He's returned after 7 years in exile. the voice of the voiceless, so on and so forth. But I think what they're doing here is they're acknowledging that CM Punk is not perfect and he's not a babyface, all that much, that he has been an asshole to work with. He has been hard to work with. And what do I guys tell you? What do I guys tell you most of the time? Whenever I hear these things, it's been reported that they're difficult to work with. Your favorite wrestler at some time in his career has been considered difficult to work with. Does that make them a bad person? I don't know. Depends. I don't think there's a universal context for that. But in the case of CM Punk, he's pissed off more than enough people for him to have a very well-known reputation of being a shit stirrer. Now, this is a guy who goes on national television advocating for reproductive rights for women. And I'm like, awesome. You can't fault him for that. But I think this is what they're doing. They are hinting, and they have been setting seeds for CM Punk, the bad guy. Are we talking about a CM Punk heel turn? I don't know if I'm gonna commit to that. But CM Punk the asshole, CM Punk the bad guy, CM Punk the guy who looks after himself, his close circle of buddies, and will shit on anyone else who doesn't fit his worldview, his vision of pro wrestling, right? And they've been hinting at this for a while with the Eddie Kingston feud. That was the moment. This was the moment where the curtain was peeled back and Eddie Kingston was like, you know what? There's so much I'd like to say right now, but I can't and I won't. But I don't like you. I never liked you. And the way Eddie delivers his promos, there's always truth to them. There's always something, a very, very real component to them. So it wasn't just bullshit. And remember during the MJF feud as well, and looking at myself in the mirror, am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy? We've been establishing questions about the morality of CM Punk moving forward. And I think what the match here is going to do at Double or Nothing, even though Adam Page was like, look, I could stand here and talk, but I'm not gonna, because I'm gonna let my actions speak for themselves. He knows, he feels, I would not be surprised at all. He knows that he feels that CM Punk is going to try and pull some sort of bullshit to try and win the title, and Adam Page is going to expose CM Punk. He's going to show him in his true colors that he's out for himself, that he's not the hero everyone thinks he is. That's what I think he's angling to do, and I think that's what we're going to be leaning into at Double or Nothing. I think that's what happens. Because no, I don't think Page is losing the belt. I really don't. And I think this is going to get a lot richer. This feud is going to get a lot richer. And everyone who was confused as to why is he saying these things, so on and so forth, we are going to get a forward resolution. What Adam Page did was foreshadowing, basic storytelling, literary technique, establishing some doubt, throwing a little anticipation as to what is going to happen, what I expect to happen. So when it does happen, we can look back at this and like, well, you know what? Page warned us. Page warned us this was going to happen. He saw it coming. I want to defend AEW against you, CM Punk, because you come in and you make it all about yourself. And he's not wrong. Because look as well, a complaint that most people watching AEW have. The world title doesn't feel as important. CM Punk overshadows everything. I think it sucks that some people decided to gatekeep here And I think that it sucks that some journalists were like, oh, well, I know things, and if you knew what happened backstage, this would all make sense. And you're like, well, fuck, we're not allowed to, we should not need to have insider information to understand what's going on here. But you don't, because that's not the approach they're taking. Now, I could be completely off base, but again, my gut is taking me in this direction, taking me in the direction that Adam Page is going to expose CM Punk, that he has something, that CM Punk is going to show his true face, the one that we only see backstage. The one that Eddie Kingston was trying to warn us about as well. The one where CM Punk himself is maybe struggling with. Am I really the bad guy? I don't think anything is lost here. This has been too good a story. And this is a hell of an arc if they start establishing this for CM Punk. Hell of an arc. And it's unusual, it's unconventional, but the storytelling techniques, because they're very literary, right? That's using foreshadowing in wrestling is not necessarily something people are used to. You used to be fed all the details, right? Like this and this and this. I think we're expected to think about this one a little more. We're expected to not take anything at face value, not take anything for granted. I dig this tremendously. And I can't think of and usually I'll be like, oh, I can compare this to such and such back in such and such a period. But I can't sit here, really, and think about something as similar as what I saw last night. And I thought it was fantastic. Let's put a pin in this and revisit this theory next Thursday on the Mr. Warren Hayes show. We're not done. This is not done. I'm not saying we're done, because we're not done. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley defeated Private Party. This one starts before the bell. It's very chaotic. Double underhook suplex by Eddie Kingston. Mox with the throwing suplex. They brawl on the floor. During the commercial, Mox has the walls of Jericho set in, which I appreciated. The little screw you to Jericho, the self-proclaimed wizard here. We also have and he transitions this into an STF, which was absolutely awesome. Private Party do get some offense in, but we get a big lariat. Kingston runs in, back fist to the future, stretch plum, paradigm shift. Like, there's no way these guys are pulling out. Paradigm shift gets the win. We're good. I like Kingston and Mox as a tag team. I really do. Ring of Honor World Tag Team title match. FTR versus Roppongi Vice. This one went to a no contest. I really enjoyed this match. Again, look, this is another Dynamite that served us up with some very, very solid pro wrestling. A super solid pro wrestling. And this was no exception here. Great exchanges between Cash and Rocky Romero here. Some strong striking sequences between Dax and Trent as well. There's some fantastic teamwork from FTR. Dax eats the turnbuckle spot a la Bret Hart, chest first. Germans by Trent, then Germans by Dax. Roppongi Vice hit the rope hung drop kick, basement drop kick, double team, and strong zero, which gets broken up by Cash Wheeler. But out of fucking nowhere, Jeff Cobb and the Great O'Khan run in and start beating everyone up. And I'm out of my seat. I'm going, fuck yes, this rules. Cobb hits a glorious tour of the islands on Rocky Romero. And they Dr. Bombs Dax through the timekeeper's table on top of that. Great-O-Khan does the claw bomb on Trent off the apron through a table, and Trent may have sold that one a little too quick, but it's fine. It's fine. So now the question that everyone has on their mind is, oh, triple threat. Are they doing this at Double or Nothing? Maybe they're doing this at Double or Nothing, but don't forget, we've got a pape coming up. We've got ourselves a Forbidden Door coming up. FTR versus Great-O-Khan and Jeff Cobb at Forbidden Door would rule. And what if Great-O-Khan and Jeff Cobb regain the IWGP tag titles, and then they go and fight FTR, and FTR win the IWGP tag titles? How about them apples? Yeah. Let's go. Let's give all the titles. Give FTR all the belts. And then send FTR maybe over for World Tag League? Hell yeah. What are you talking about? Get me excited about World Tag League this year. I dare you. I double dare you. I double dog dare you, New Japan. Make me excited for World Tag League this year. Do this kind of shit. Get me excited. Get me pumped. Create some contenders. Revitalize this goddamn tag team division that you allegedly have. Make me excited for World Tag League. We get a Hardy Boys promo as well. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. I understand what this match is about. The originators versus the cosplayers, if we're going to use that terminology. We Supercard of Honor 9 is the Hardy Boys Young Bucks match that you want to see, because it's the last match that the Hardys had before returning to WWE, and it's really, 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 really good. I don't think this is going to be really, 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 really good. Look, it'll serve its purpose for whatever purpose it is, but let's move on, right? Right. Great match that happened here. Swerve Strickland defeated Jungle Boy and Ricky Starks. You know who the MVP of this match is? You know who the MVP of this match is? I'm going to have a Fuzzy Peach, and I'm going to let you tell me, as I chew on this Fuzzy Peach, who was the MVP of this match. I'm chewing loudly for comedic effect. Or just effect. Ricky Starks. That's who. If you said anyone else than Ricky Starks, you're wrong! He did everything in this match perfectly. He was the heel, and he healed for both of these dudes. Make them look great, and he looked great in the process. Fast pace. Lots of spots. I love the super poison run by Jungle Boy where Swerve lands on his feet. Loved it. Ricky Starks' Michinoku driver, it's fantastic. It looks like it hurts. Ricky Starks' thumb swerve into the eye hits the Rochambeau. Jungle Boy runs in with the snare trap. Huge kick by Swerve to break it up. Swerve stomp gets the win on Starks. But let me tell you, you go back, you watch this match. One guy is working his ass off for, not that the other two guys were slouches or that they were carried, but one guy knew what his job was in this match. And it was to make the baby faces look strong, look hard, look tough. And that was Ricky Starks. And if you have not been convinced at this point that the ceiling for this dude is world champion, I don't know what he can do anymore at this point. A couple of weeks ago, he cuts a promo, starts calling people jabronis in the ring. I get shivers up and down my spine. I'm like, holy shit, it's Dwayne Johnson. Everything about Ricky Starks, since having that tryout match with Cody for the TNT Championship all the way to now. Everything has been improved. He has improved dramatically from top to bottom. Every aspect of his game, from his talking to his in-ring to the confidence that he has, the swagger he has. Ricky Starks is the real deal. And a great match on top of that. And a great post-match. Then Powerhouse Hobbs shows up. And he attacks. Luchasaurus comes in to make the save. Keith Lee arrives, hits a tornillo. What the hell's going on? Then we get a Men of the Year promo with Dan Lambert. And Lambert says that he's going to make Scorp his own custom TNT title. And I'm like, what's the big deal? They all had custom titles. Miro had a custom title. Like, I'm like, if anything, I'm like, yeah, he should have a custom title. You know what I mean? Thunder Rosa comes out. She cuts a short, well-focused, fiery promo. No face paint on. You know, she's talking real from the heart. I think this feud needed this. Rosa brought out the she brought the heat. She was fired up. She clearly loves the fans. Loves performing with the fans. She cannot but not smile and acknowledge the fans as she's cutting her promo. She is such a likable human. And look, Jeff and I talk about it at length on the prediction show. But Rosa and Deeb are going to have a great match at Double or Nothing. The build, I don't think was great for multiple reasons. And I think the mistake number one was not using Serena Deeb to her strengths. Not have her come to the table, not have her in this build do what brought her to the table, which is get in the ring, twist people into knots, and leave them crying. That's what made Serena Deeb so effective as a heel. Then we had the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament semi-final match where Dr. Britt Baker defeated Toni Storm. I thought this was a fine match. I enjoyed it. There was a good feeling out period between them both. Very basics. Lots of basics, but fundamentals. But I liked it. They brawled to the floor. Britt drops Toni Storm on the steps so she can get the upper hand. She stretches Storm in the ring. They trade forearms. Big kick by Baker. Toni Storm fights back with a swinging DDT and a hip attack. Storm Zero is countered by an air raid crash. Then Jamie Hayter comes out as Britt tries to pin after the air raid crash. And I love Britt seeing Jamie come and she says, I don't know what to do. And asking Jamie, because Jamie's like, you fought her before. What? I don't know what to do. I love that. German by Storm. Followed, and then there's some kind of interference. The ending's a little messy, a little sloppy, holding onto the ropes. There's supposed to be some interference. I don't know. Roll up. Britt holds the ropes. She gets the win. I don't think the right woman won. I really don't. I don't think Britt was the one who. I don't think Britt was the woman to pull it off here. I really think this was Tony's spot. Because I think Tony needed it more. Because as it stands right now, we'll give it time. We'll see what happens. But Britt, not Britt, but they're pulling a Ruby Soho with Tony right now, where Tony comes in just like Ruby Soho with a lot of hype, big debut, excited for her, wins a couple of matches, but doesn't get the big one, and all the heat sort of dissipates. And I really think that they had the opportunity to create another top-level babyface in the company because they are really, really low on hot babyfaces in AEW, which was one of the problems with Britt Baker being so over as a heel or a cool heel. You needed such a hot babyface to even remotely compete as far as heat goes. I think they had an opportunity here to push hard with Toni Storm. Get her into the Owen. Have her win. I don't see how this helps Britt. I don't see any advantage other than, well, you know, she's the face of the division. We gotta keep her in there. And so, you know, I'm starting to think, what kind of sway, what kind of hold does Britt Baker have on the women's division if she's running this roughshod over it? And I'm saying this out of love because I really like Britt Baker. And I know some people don't. I don't want to say a lot of people because I think there's more people who like her than the opposite. I really like her. I really do. But sometimes, you know, you can miss someone. And I think it's time for us to miss Britt a little bit. I think it's time for her to there's a bunch of things you could do. You can have her just pop off screen for a while. Let her rest up. Come back. People will flip the shit out when they see her come back because it's Britt Baker. She's made. She doesn't have to worry about her spot in this company. She's made. Or have her hang around the mid-card a little bit. Let's have some mid-card feuds with some of the women who are not in that lane just yet. Spice things up a little bit. The problem is that they only have one match per week to build an entire division. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. And bless all of you who say, yeah, but they also do one match on Rampage. There you go. And I'm gonna keep hammering this home as much as I can because it is the truth. Dynamite is the flagship. It is the big one. It's the one that people tune into every Wednesday night to watch because they've been told this is the big show. Rampage, I love Rampage. It's a cool hour of wrestling. But there's some weeks where I'm like, you know what? I could have not watched this and everything would have been fine. It's not necessarily a knock because the wrestling's fine. The wrestling's good even on some occasions. And I'm not going to complain if I sit down and I watch a good hour of wrestling. But in the grand scheme of things, knowing how things are booked in North American wrestling, you want the angles, you want the stories, you want to feel important. The women's division still doesn't feel important. It really doesn't. Now we're getting 3 women's matches on Double or Nothing on this year. That's a first. I'm like, okay, good. Good. I don't think Britt was the one. I think it shows a little bit that we don't have quite enough confidence in all of our women just yet. I think there are booking problems that exist. I think there are ways the matches are produced that don't necessarily always highlight the women in their best way. God damn, when you turn around and you can have Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter put on the best match of the entire tournament. One of the best women's matches that AEW's put on. What's holding back? What is the thing that is keeping this women's division from exploding? And I refuse to believe that it's all on the talent, on the quality of women. It's a top-heavy women's division. Cut that shit out. There are too many top-tier talent for anyone to be iffy on it. Now, I can buy into Ruby Soho going to the finals. I don't know why people think it's Chris Statlander. They're clearly... Maybe it's because, I don't know, I say clearly, but I don't want to feel like I'm smarter than anyone else. Give that impression. But it seems obvious to me, how about that? That they're setting Statlander up for Jade. Chris is not winning the tournament. Chris was a sub in this tournament. She's not winning. Now, if and when Ruby wins and then goes to fight Britt, well, now we're having a bit of a full circle moment, right? Where with Britt and Ruby, when Britt was champion, it's like, all right, okay. I see what you're doing. And I can appreciate some long-term storytelling. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If Britt Baker wins the Owen this year, it is a mistake. Because you are telling your fans clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, that there is only one wrestler in the women's division that you need to care about. And that is Britt Baker. That everyone else is secondary. It will be a very, very tough message. And a lot of people are already turning on the booking. Feel like Britt is overexposed. That everything has to involve Britt. It really would have felt nice to have other stars of the division get put forward in this tournament. It really would have. More like a, discovery angle, Like people were like, geez, I didn't know Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter were that good. Well, there you go. For lack of a better way to put it, I feel like AEW is risking... AEW currently risks to Charlotte Britt Baker, if you get what I mean. Right? Where everyone is online. Everyone goes online. Everyone complains that Charlotte gets all the opportunities. And she's always put in title situations. And everyone hates Charlotte because it's always about Charlotte. How can Charlotte be positioned in this? How can she be added to this? Right? And I feel like they're on the cusp of doing that. Of having, oh no, not Britt Baker again. Where it should be, hell yeah, Britt Baker. I think the division needs to pull back. Doesn't mean her spot she's made. She's fine. This is the thing, is that Britt Baker is a made woman in AEW. Her spot is safe. There's no need to be angling to stay up in these spots. Hell, I went on Cage Match today, and the reviewers, the inmates, as they like to call themselves, they review bombed the match. Gave it a 2.97 stars out of 10. Like, no, come on. But you read the comments then, the reason, and you're like, oh, okay, they're just very disappointed. They hate that Britt won. These are signs. This is starting to simmer. It might be a minority right now, but we've seen this type of booking happen in the past. We've seen it explode in very, very poor ways to the detriment of the wrestler themselves, where it no longer becomes a question of heat, becomes a question of we don't want to see this person anymore. The AEW really needs to be careful with Britt. I think we're at this spot right now. And finally, the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament semifinals. Samoan Joseph defeated Kyle O'Reilly. Lots of big chops from Joe. A senton, a strike, a snap suplex. Kyle O'Reilly wrenches the arm and starts to work it, targeting it relentlessly. This has been Kyle's MO throughout the tournament. They go on the floor, they brawl a little bit, but Kyle O'Reilly runs right into a Samoa Joe elbow, and Jesus, did he ever sell it? It looked rough. Back in the ring, Kyle O'Reilly leg sweeps Joe, stops dropping strikes to the back of his head. Joe hits an inverted atomic drop and a senton. Hits a huge lariat, covers. Kyle O'Reilly kicks out. Kyle O'Reilly wriggles out of the muscle buster, reverses it into an arm bar, which was great. Joe fights out of it, hits an enziguri. Kyle O'Reilly, a huge kick, but it's Joe who chokes out Kyle O'Reilly for the win. I don't know who wanted Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly haven't had a good match since 2012 together, one-on-one. They really haven't. I don't know how there was any other outcome from this match. I don't know how there was any other outcome in this match here than Samoa Joe winning the semifinals. I think I've exposed the reasons. The first and most important reason is that AEW took the time to smooth out all the tensions between Red Dragon and the Young Bucks, because heading into Forbidden Door, we are most likely going to get a Bullet Club faction fight. So you can't have areas of dissent between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly at this point. That wouldn't work. They purposefully smoothed out the kinks so that there wouldn't be any more kinks, so that when we got to Forbidden Door, the Undisputed Elite would all be on the same page, right? I don't know why. I don't think it's that hard to see coming. And like I said, who the hell wants Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole? Their last matches were not great. I don't know who wanted this. And yet I saw it quite a bit. Oh, Kyle O'Reilly needs to do this and get some dissent. And you have Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, one of the top guys, a guy that people want to see wrestle. You have him. He's a big name. Of course you're putting him on your pay-per-view. Of course you're putting him in. You put him in this tournament. Of course he's going to get to the finals. What are you even talking about? We're talking about this on the Bob Culture podcast last night. And, a good point was made. We don't know how long Joe's contract is for. We don't know how much more he wants to do this. We don't, use him while you have him. Use him while he's healthy, while he's on top of the world, while he can still get those great reactions. People still excited to see him. Use him. Use him now. Kyle is great. I love Kyle O'Reilly. I did not need to see him and Adam Cole. None of you did. Sorry to say. You thought you did, but you don't. Because you forgot. Been corrected. The last good match they had was 2014. I said 2012. Guess I was being a little rough. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know why anyone wanted anything else other than this outcome. And you know what? This is the better match. This is going to be the better match between Cole and Joe. I love you all. And that will conclude this week's weekly wrestling inspection. Well, folks, it's about time to hit that dusty trail. We're just about time. It's about time to close up shop, pull the curtains, turn off the "We are open" sign, hide the tips. Is that what you do? You hide the tip? I don't know. I haven't worked in retail in years. But I do want to thank everyone who joined me today. For everyone who joined me for the live recording of the podcast here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I want to thank everyone who joined me live as well for the warm-up show. That's also fantastic. I want to thank everyone who showed some support, subscribed, became members. And you know what? If you're listening to this on demand on YouTube, you can leave some comments. Let's chat it up about wrestling. I love talking about wrestling. And if there's things that you want to talk about, you can leave a super thanks, which is like a super chat but for comments. And you know what? I'll make a nice little segment next week where I will read your super thanks as we go along. So if you want to do that, but that's you can't do it live. Don't try to do it live. There's no point. But if you're listening to this on demand, why don't you give it a shot? And that also shows some support, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. All of you. That said, hope you all have a great weekend. There's lots of wrestling to check out. Lots of great stuff. Hope you watch Double or Nothing, and I hope you enjoy it. But I hope you enjoy your weekend regardless. Thank you again for being here tonight. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you next time.